Hi, my psychic detectives from around the world. How are all of my psychic detectives? I am Tracy Brown coming to you today on video. And the reason why I've decided to come to you today on video is because rather than do the live feed, sometimes there are things that I want to say to you. And the live feed, because the energy is so vibrant and so strong, that sometimes I don't always get my point across. I know you guys think I do. I don't always. And when a video ends and I find myself saying, wow, I should have said that and I should have said this, and I hope I got that point across. So I'm starting a new series of videos. It has nothing to do with psychic readings. It is about informing you of everyday metaphysical life. Now, don't panic. Your psychic, celebrity readings are always going to be there. In fact, probably when I end this one, I'll be doing another video live. So, this is just a new series so that I could effectively communicate with you. I've been watching some of my other peers on YouTube, and I'm finding that the ones that are put on video seem to be better coordinated and better put together. I have often found that my live feeds are sloppy and confusing, and I show up very clumsy, which is my personality. And I always say, I need an assistant. Well, what I really needed to do was just change something. And so at first, I tried changing the look of my home so that the home looked more like a studio. Well, that didn't work, because the internet was like not having it. Even the internet was like, no, we're not doing that. So I came back to my desk, because I moved it into my living room. I came back to my desk and I made my office space my studio. And that does seem to work a little better. But it still seems to be off balance. Things still seem to go wrong, and I can't control all of that because the live feed is the live feed, and sometimes just getting the psychic reading out is so much important than the aesthetics, right? Because that's all you really care about is the psychic readings on a particular topic. This time around, I want to talk to you guys. I have things to say. There are just things going on in my head that is just exploding. Sometimes I'm doing a psychic reading and I'm talking to someone about, let's say it's a relationship issue. And I wish that I could have this conversation that I had with one person with all of you. So that's where these segments are going to come up. I had a name for these segments and then I lost it. I had a name. I was like, oh, I should call it this. If I don't write it down, I forget very easily now. In any case, let's get this party started. We are going to be discussing Mercury Retrograde, which is due to turn up for us October 31st. So, what we're going to do is talk about Mercury Retrograde. We're going to see what components factor into Mercury Retrograde. The ability to look at why things go wrong. Like, oh my God, the worst things can happen during Mercury Retrograde. And it's happening on Halloween. Okay, my peoples. Let's talk about Mercury Retrograde. Once again, Mercury Retrograde is appearing October 31st through, let me move some of these things out the way. is appearing October 31st through November 20th. It is a time to revisit, review, reflect. The thing that's most important about Mercury retrograde, any time of the year, because it will show up 3 to 4 times a year, is to slow down. So, the way you normally operate, when you think you can get to work at 30-minute drive and, 26.5 minutes, get there in 33 minutes. Give yourself more time. Take your time. Don't be so angry when you're driving, because Mercury affects mechanical issues. The other thing that's really important about Mercury retrograde is that it does affect the mechanical issues. It also reminds you, like, oh, you had that warning sign, you didn't take the car in. You knew your tire needed air, and you thought it was okay to take another trip without changing, putting air in your tire. You knew you were supposed to put oil in, whatever the case may be. A lot of times when Mercury affects your car, it's because you knew. But there are many, many times when Mercury affects your car and it comes out of the blue. Mercury retrograde wreaks havoc. It is the one time you will drop your phone. You will have mechanical issues. It is the one time the love of your life that you've never had a problem with really ravages the communication between you, and you're like, what happened? How did we get here? I'm stunned. Ever have that female that never gave you trouble, and all of a sudden she whips her head around like the Exorcist and tells you how many ways to put something, and you're like, wait, what? Or you come home and you're like, hey, with your male partner, and you're like, hey, how about if we eat pizza tonight? And he loses it. You're very controlling. All you want to do is do it your way. I'm out. And you're like, whoa, what happened? And he's out. Most times it's during Mercury retrograde. Now, I'll give you a little tip that I don't believe in. Mercury retrograde is identified in this period from October 31st to November 20th. However, most metaphysical people, not astrologers, most metaphysical people, because we're a little cuckoo crazy, we add 2 more weeks. So for us, the cuckoo crazy ones that you come to for readings, but we're crazy in a loving kind of way, we would tell everyone Mercury retrograde has a shadow period the week prior to October 31st. So for us, Mercury retrograde will begin on the 17th. That's on the 24th. On the 24th, that's the shadow period for us. And for us, it would end on the 27th. Mercury retrograde is around for 4 weeks. Metaphysical people add another 2 weeks, so we're like in despair for 6 weeks. And trust me, something's going to happen a week before Mercury retrograde, and you're going to say, is it Mercury retrograde? Because the weirdest thing just happened. It's the shadow period. What I've been told is that you can get through Mercury retrograde. You'll get through it November 20th, and you're like, oh my God, I made it. Mercury retrograde did not affect me. And on the 21st, you'll go to work, and they moved your job. They moved your desk. And it's devastating because it's in a section of people that you probably hate. Now, of course, I'm exaggerating. I'm exaggerating. But Mercury retrograde does not exaggerate. Mercury retrograde is, and it pulls you out of your comfort zone. I like to compare Mercury retrograde and relationship with the old fashioned, I don't know if it's old fashioned anymore. I really need to see if there's an app for it, called The Sims. Remember, you used to have these things called The Sims, and you would teach The Sims how to cook and how to go to the bathroom and blah, 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 blah. One day, my brother had the app The Sim. I feel like he might, I gave it to him as a birthday present. He loved it. One day, we decided to just leave the app open, because you close it down at night, you put him to bed, you close him down at night, and then you next morning you wake up and you start all over again. One day my brother and I was like, why don't we just leave it? Why don't we just see what happens? And you'll have couples here and couples there, and they're learning how to be a couple, and they're so happy in this Sims program. It's a really weird program. Well, if you leave it open, they switch up, they become lesbians, they become gays. They really, what you had hoped for in terms of a couple maturating and growing that you had put together, the Sims, if left alone, will just invest in whatever it wants. That's Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde says this partner is not good for you, and you're not recognizing the signs. Remember the car that I was telling you about that was trying to give you signs? You kept ignoring it, or you didn't have the money to fix your car. Finally, it will break down during the Mercury retrograde period, or the shadow period before or after. The same thing happens in relationship, pretty much like The Sims, where you go in and you're like, oh my God, this is an amazing relationship. I really love this person, da 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 da. I've never felt this way before. And then Mercury retrograde comes in. And Mercury retrograde, at some point, reminds somebody in a relationship that y'all aren't supposed to be together. It's spiritual energy, and somebody has to leave. Usually, the leaving of is so explosive and feels unexpected. It isn't. There was always signs that this was going to happen. All right? So, it's always about revisiting, reviewing, reflecting. Don't be so shocked when the relationship falls apart, because there was something there. And when I talk with you guys in a psychic reading, I can see it. And I'm like, no, you kind of knew this was going to happen. Not the way it happened, but it looked like you couldn't pull this back in. You could tell someone's love was leaving. All right? Mercury is in a sign of Scorpio. Scorpio is, it's in the sign of Scorpio, but it's also conjunct Venus, so they're, paralleling each other. And Venus is about love and pleasure and beauty, unless it's conjunct. And the Scorpio energy in Mercury retrograde and the loving sign of Venus actually makes people very obsessive, very paranoid, very weird, very suspicious, very sexual for the good or bad. So it could be real depths of emotional sexuality that just feels amazing. Or it could be like, hey, could we have a threesome with a dog? Very passionate. It rules the genitals, so don't be surprised if some heightened sexual genitalia type of experience comes through, because for this time around, it's conjunct Venus. Remember, it also could be an illusion, so be careful who you meet during Mercury retrograde. It might be for a very short period, because a lot of times when you meet somebody during Mercury retrograde, It just doesn't last. I don't know why. I don't know how. But the person comes in deep, hard, heavy, and they leave as quick as they come in, and the feeling of being left alone after such an amazing experience is so hurtful. So, I'd like to begin nothing romantically during the retrograde, meaning Mercury retrograde is about planning and observing and reviewing, remember? And so this is going to be a new concept for a lot of you, okay? Date. Just date. Just spend the next 6 weeks when somebody comes in new and date. You know that 3-date rule and then sex? Do not do it during Mercury retrograde. Do not invite somebody back at your house. Be a prude. Like, don't even take your breasts out to let them suck on it. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Until the retrograde shadow period is over. You gotta trust me on this. I do this for a living. I talk to all of you. And I'm always like, oh, you met him during Mercury retrograde. Yeah. Well, I just want to know, will he ever come back? Yeah, he will. That's the other thing with Mercury retrograde. There'll be arguments. There'll be fights. Even if you've been in a long-term relationship or the person just came in yesterday, the person just came in, it's very romantic, very loving. The person leaves. If the person leaves during Mercury retrograde, it's not over. I'm not saying that's a good thing, because some of you like the fact that it's not over because it gives you hope. No, it just means the person will come back, and the things that you all are having problems with stand. It stays the same. And so most times the next Mercury retrograde, I'm out. Until somebody breaks the cycle. Until someone says, wow, you've done this to me twice already. So no, I can't invite you back this time. I have to breathe. And I have to go on. And I still love you. I can't do this with you. And give yourself the option to understand there's others out there for you. When Mercury retrograde is conjunct Venus, everything seems beautiful and glossy and oh my goodness, just amazing, and everybody's doing all the right things, and he's attentive and she's loving, and you hold hands in public, which I never see anymore. I never see couples holding hands in public unless I go to Koreatown. I don't see it anymore. But it just doesn't stay during Mercury retrograde. So, buyer beware. If somebody comes in during Mercury retrograde, take your time and date. And don't take this to any next level until the shadow period, which means an extra week. No matter what the date, give it an extra week. All right? Mercury retrograde is a planet that moves around the sun, right? At some point, it slows down to the point where it looks like it's going in reverse. Mercury is a fierce planet. So, Mercury can get blamed on everything. It can get blamed on miscommunication, technology problems, botched business deals, missed flights. I'm telling you. Mechanical issues, and trust me, your cell phone will break. The last time I broke my cell phone, I think it was during Mercury retrograde. I'm trying to think now. I think it was sometime in March. I always have a case that looks like this. I dropped it, It opened up and on a concrete floor went face down. Mercury retrograde. Cost me $200 to get a replacement phone. Also, you should not sign any contracts. I know that seems crazy to you, but it really isn't. You should not sign any contracts, but what if a job comes through during Mercury retrograde? Should you not sign? Sign the contract. The job is much more important than the energy of Mercury retrograde. You can trust and believe that. However, it could mean your experience at the job could be followed with some difficult personalities. I once signed a contract during Mercury retrograde with a gorgeous little red Chevy car. Gorgeous little cute, love my car. And 2 years in, brand new car, it lost its transmission. And I remembered, I was like, I remember thinking, Mercury retrograde, who cares? The loan is going to go through, so I'm not going to care. And technically, is it Mercury retrograde if it took 2 years to break? Hell yeah, it was Mercury retrograde. Who loses a transmission in 2 years? Of course it was Mercury retrograde. But I called Chevy when it was not Mercury retrograde, right? I didn't call Chevy during a Mercury retrograde. I called them and I got the transmission fixed. It just never felt the same. I called them after a Mercury retrograde. I was fully clear, like 2 months away from a Mercury retrograde past or present. And I was like, hey, you gave me a lemon. And they were like, hey, why don't we just give you your money back? And I was like, hey, yeah. And they gave me my money back. Minus any payments that I had paid. Sometimes it helps to pay attention to Mercury retrograde. Missed flights, don't get it twisted. You'll get to that airport right up until the day you leave. They'll give you your email. Your flight's on time. Be at the airport 3 hours early. And then you get there, there's the plane. The plane got stuck in Idaho somewhere. And you're like, I have a connection flight. Mercury retrograde. Things can happen. It's not even your fault. Mercury retrograde. So during Mercury retrograde, slow down. Slow down when you're driving, especially in Los Angeles. Slow down. Be conscious. Be careful. Check the dates over and over. You think you have a meeting on October 19th at 2 o'clock? Confirm with somebody. Just confirming for the 10th time. I know this seems a little silly. Just confirming we're meeting October 19th at 2 o'clock. All right? Not the 10th. No. It's the 10th. How do I say the 19th? Mercury retrograde. It's going to make you crazy. Be careful of signing any business deals. Again, when it comes to business, it's a near impossibility. Former President Obama started his presidency, his 8-year term, during Mercury retrograde. And the Senate attacked him the whole 4 years. But he was slow, smart, and methodical. I can almost guarantee he had an astrologer telling him what points were safe for him. The way he acted, no one can't tell me he didn't have an astrologer. That's what I think psychically, because he was very good at using Mercury retrograde to his advantage. Double check your flights, but remember, you can still get there. Something could go wrong. Avoid relationship discussions, right? So that would mean now's not the time between now and November 27th to say to your relationship partner, do you love me? You never say it. Do you want to marry me? I don't know what you want. Don't do that. You're going to get an answer that's going to be out of pocket, and you guys, without a doubt, will argue. I'll just get some. No questions about I'm ready to have a baby, I'm ready to be engaged. No questions about I'm ready to commit and you're not. If I'm ready to commit, you must be ready too. Be careful. You're going to get an answer that's going to be completely out of pocket. You're not going to like it. And this is for men and women. Mercury retrograde is about slowing down, reevaluate your relationships, okay? Hold off, like, just be mindful. If you're getting married during Mercury retrograde and you pick a date not knowing this stuff, that's okay. I'm telling you, Barack Obama managed to control the whole country during Mercury retrograde. But there are others that you have to be concerned about. That's the caterer, that's the musician, that's the, bridal coordinator, that's the flowers, that's the this, that's the that. It's all those people that you're gonna have problems with. And then the food didn't show up until 2 hours later. That kind of stuff. Again, it might be out of your control. And if it is out of your control, find the funny in it. Find the funny in it. Somebody go to McDonald's, spend $10,000 on Big Macs and call it a day. Find the funny in anything that's completely out of your control. Completely. The caterer could be on its way. Mercury retrograde, winds up in an accident, winds up, stuck on a highway. Get your groom people together and tell them go get that food. I know I'm being extreme, but trust me, you can like, share, and tell me any of your Mercury retrograde horror stories. I will love it. I will laugh, and I will love it. Take your time. Pay close attention to detail, and if you have to sign a contract, read it. Read it again. Let your lawyer read it. Let your partner read it. Read the details. This is also a time where people from the past show up. So a lot of times during Mercury retrograde, an old lover will come back in out of the blue. Most people are like, wait, who? What? If you didn't already block them, they'll come back in. And just because somebody comes back in doesn't mean they're safe for you. So be mindful of somebody coming back in if they haven't healed some personal wounds. All right? You'll run into somebody from the past. An old high school friend, and you're going to be like, oh my God. I've not seen you in ages. Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde also may bring up some trauma in the past, either memory or real, or comes in tangible form or memory form. It is during Mercury retrograde that you should get some counseling if trauma shows up, and maybe Mercury retrograde is saying, today's a good day to deal with it. So, let's deal with it and let's heal. Most importantly, Mercury retrograde is about observing, reviewing, and then breathe, releasing. Let me end this with what stones will be perfect for Mercury retrograde. And the stones that will be perfect will be a whole nother video. But for right now, get your stones together. And they are, let me put my glasses on, rose quartz, aquamarine, blue lace agate, chrysocolla, turquoise, selenite, hematite, amethyst, citrine, clear quartz, and finally tourmaline. Now I have a tourmaline rock here. I also have some Mercury Retrograde oil for sale. And what I'm going to do with the Mercury Retrograde oil to sell, if you like it, it's up to you. I have this stuff in my apothecary regardless. Oh wait, I had one already open. This one is already open? Please. If this was like door number 1, door number 2, door number 3, let's see there. Oh, I had my, oh. I have, this is the size that I'm selling, all right? Because I couldn't get a bigger size of Mercury Retrograde, so I can only sell this size. But this is all you need, guys. Don't get it twisted. This is Mercury Retrograde here. I'm going to put, there's a tourmaline rock in here. Oops. Yay. I'm sending this over with a tourmaline rock. However, I am also saturating the Mercury Retrograde with tourmaline anyways. All right, so this already has, let me see, this already has, let me see, I can't tell it in the light. Doesn't matter. This already has tourmaline in it, and I'm sending over Mercury Retrograde with your own tourmaline inside. I don't know if you guys can see it. See the rock there? Yay! Tourmaline is a very protective stone. It clears negative energy, transforms and cleanses dense energy. You ever go in somebody's house and it's like you could feel how stagnant the air is? Tourmaline, this is the rock, clears it. It repels and blocks negative energy and psychic attacks or curses, if you believe you've been cursed. This is the stone that gets rid of it, which is why I'm offering, more than any other rock, tourmaline inside the Mercury Retrograde. Removes negative energy from a person and removes negative energy in a space. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video on Mercury Retrograde. This is my first of many, so I'm a little uncomfortable right now, but it does feel better. All right. Check out my website, tracybrownlive.com. If you'd like your own personal reading from me, check out my website and email me for your own personal reading. If you go to my website, the email address is right there. I love you. I thank you for trusting me. I thank you for trusting my new space in my metaphysical world to reach out to you guys differently. This feels good. Oh, wish me luck, guys. Thank you. I honor you all. Thank you. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.